Charles Manson's grandson said Monday he regrets never meeting his reviled relative in the flesh, and hopes it's not too late to claim his remains. "I'm going to move towards having a proper burial," Jason Freeman, 41, told the Daily News by phone, a day after California prison officials confirmed the cult leader died at a Bakersfield hospital Sunday night. "I will definitely speak with the inner circle of people who love my grandfather and who may know more of where he would want to be. I'm working on doing my part," Freeman said. The married father of 3 now living in Florida declined to specify what legal steps HES taking to prove his next-of-kin status to prison officials, but Freeman said he planned to fly to California later this week. Freeman first stepped forward in a 2012 CNN interview, saying he barely knew his own father, who was the only son of Manson and his first wife, Rosalie. Born Charles Manson Jr., the estranged dad changed his name to Jay White after his mom divorced the future mass murderer. White eventually killed himself in June 1993 while in his late 30s. Freeman said he blamed his grandfather for his own dad's death until he started speaking with Manson by phone 8 years ago and reached a place of forgiveness. The madman's grandson started lobbying for the right to visit Manson at Corcoran State Prison but never succeeded. Asked why a meeting never took place, he declined to get specific but suggested Manson himself never gave the green light. "I get emotional talking about this," Freeman said. "Some stuff is frustrating. He wanted to protect me, keep me out of all the pressure and hatred the world has." Facebook Freeman lamented waiting so long to reach out to Manson. "It's weighing on my shoulders. I should have been faster, should have done more, should have done something different. It's like I was trying too hard at the end of the marathon and now the marathon is over. That's what it feels like," he said. "I don't want to say I feel defeated, but I feel beat up right now." Freeman agreed Manson was a killer but said he was unfairly convicted of murdering Sharon Tate Polanski and the 4 other people who were at the heavily pregnant actress' Los Angeles home in August 1969. Manson was not at the house for the mass slaughter but chose the location and directed his disciples to kill everyone there. "If he was there chopping people up, that would make a big difference in how I look at him, but him not having his hands physically there, I don't believe he should have spent almost 50 years in prison," Freeman argued. "I'm not saying HES not guilty of murder sometime in his life, but the Sharon Tate murder, I don't think HES guilty of that," he said. Freeman is now working on a documentary with New York-based producer Joe Townley and My Entertainment. The working title is Manson's Bloodline, Townley said Monday. "As I've learned in past 8 years, there's more than one side of the story, and now that helps past, you'll see a lot more of what really happened in the future," Freeman said. Freeman said he got to know a different man than what my mother always told me during his phone conversations with Manson. Anonymous Associated Press. "He told me he loved me. I told him I loved him. It took 5 years for that to come out of his mouth," he said. "Most people in the world would NT understand. They would NT get what I'm saying. We all look at anybody and everybody who kills as a killer. But all I have is my love," Freeman, who described himself as deeply spiritual, said. The clock is ticking for Freeman to make his claim on Manson's remains. The crazed cult leader's body was in the possession of the Kern County coroner on Monday, a prison spokeswoman confirmed to the news. The spokeswoman declined to give a more specific cause of death beyond natural or say whether Manson had a last will and testament to someone listed in his file for death notification. According to state regulations, Manson's remains will be released to a licensed funeral director unless the coroner makes special arrangements. Manson might even get a ceremony, if he asked for one. A chaplain of the decedent's professed faith may perform a ceremony in accordance with that faith, the California Code of Regulations governing inmate death states. If Manson legally designated someone for death notification, prison staff will attempt to reach that person with a visit, telephone call or telegram, in accordance with state regulations. If after 10 days the legally approved person fails to contact the designated funeral director, Manson will be considered unclaimed, the regulations state. In that case, the funeral home would make arrangements to inter the mass murderer using state resources. If not already there, Manson would likely be sent to Union Cemetery in Bakersfield for cremation. His ashes would then fit into a container about half the size of a shoebox. According to the Kern County coroner's website, unclaimed remains are interred at Union Cemetery. A Bakersfield, Californian report from 2010 said Kern County's unclaimed remains were stacked unceremoniously inside a group vault at Union Cemetery. That unmarked vault was in the top row of a 90-year-old mausoleum on the property. To find such unclaimed remains, visitors must consult the cemetery's records to determine location, the newspaper said. Manson was originally sentenced to death along with several members of his psychopathic cult, but the sentences were commuted to life when the death penalty was briefly outlawed in 1972. Prosecutors said Manson and his followers were trying to incite an Armageddon-like race war named after the Beatles' song Helter Skelter. New York Daily News: Manson was denied parole 12 times between November 1978 and April 2012. The last parole hearing he attended was in 1997. He was not eligible to have another parole hearing until 2027. Ben Gurecki, a Manson groupie who regularly posted prison calls with the inmate on his YouTube channel, said Manson recently told him he was suffering from heart failure. "I'm tired," Manson said during calls in the last month, Gurecki claimed to the news. "I'm just tired." Tate's sister Deborah Tate has been a vocal advocate for keeping Manson's disciples in prison despite regular parole hearings. She told the news late Sunday that she actually said a prayer for Manson after getting a call from prison officials about his death. "I shed a tear for him. When I got the phone call at 8:30 that he had died, I said a prayer, shed a tear, stuck a flower under my cross in my bedroom and emailed Roman Polanski," Deborah Tate said. "I've processed through all of my hate for him. Hate isn't healthy. It won't bring my sister back. One could say I've forgiven him, but there's a difference between forgiving and forgetting," she said. "He was sociopathic and very dangerous, like his followers. He was the root of the problems, but he was the least of my worries. He wasn't trying to get out of prison," she said, referring to his convicted followers. "I sit across from these monsters many times a year, and I know very clearly they're still capable of heinous acts," she said. "For that reason, I've dedicated myself to seeing they stay right where they are until they draw their last breath, so they can't hurt anyone else."